So after I got accepted and we went to an admit reception for people in my region, my interviewer was actually there, and my dad told me that they had talked and she had nothing but nice things to say, so that was really nice. I was really thankful. I was like, bro, oh my god. I wasn't sure if I did good or not. I honestly wasn't feeling too good about it, but apparently it went well, so you never know. You never know. Hi everyone, Tristan here. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. If not, welcome back. Yeah, if not, welcome back. That makes sense. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Today we're going to be talking about the Stanford interview process. So Stanford was the only school that I did an interview for, so this is the only one that I can talk about. I'm not going to talk about college interviews at large because I didn't do more than one. The only one that I did was Stanford. So I'm going to be talking about that. And I'm going to try and give you guys some tips and also some context about what to expect and things that might happen at the interview, things that you can do to prepare and stuff like that. So let's get started. So I want to start off with giving a little bit of context for how this process works. So Stanford does offer interviews, but they are optional and they are offered to you. So you can't request an interview, they offer it to you. For me, I got contacted through my email, so make sure after you apply to be checking your email to make sure that you don't miss an opportunity to interview. So first off, it is optional. If you're offered one, it's completely up to you whether or not you want to do it. I did because I felt like there would be no harm in doing it. If anything, it was just one extra thing that could help my application. I am personally comfortable with talking to other people. I'm kind of a people person, so speaking to a stranger didn't really cause a lot of anxiety for me. It was pretty natural. I was a little nervous, but I wasn't freaking out or anything. So if this is something that causes you a lot of stress or anxiety, it's okay. You don't have to worry too much. I'm going to talk about dealing with that more later. But if you feel like it's not worth it for you to do an interview, then it is totally up to you. No one's forcing you to do it. So don't worry too much about that. So for the interview, the way that it basically goes is after you apply, if you look on their website, there's a certain time slot in which interviews will occur. So you'll be emailed before this time period and then you'll interview within it. And then after your interview, a few weeks later or something like that, you're going to get contacted about whether or not you got in. So for me, I applied early restrictive action, so I ended up interviewing in November. So for me, the time frame kind of looked like I applied by November 1st. I did my interview somewhere like maybe a few weeks after that, 2 or 3 weeks after that, really short. And then I found out that I got in on December 7th or 6th. I know that's really like not specific, but basically it happened within the span of a month. For some more background about the interviews, I really had no idea what to expect because I'd never done a college interview before and I didn't really know anyone else who had. So I looked on Stanford's website and they honestly do have a lot of good information just if you want to know very basic things. I think that the most useful information for me was knowing that, and I'm taking this right off of the Stanford website. So the question is, what should I expect? How do I prepare? And on the website they say that the interview is an informal conversation and there's no need to prepare formally. So this means that you don't have to bring any supplements. They don't want you to bring your application or your activities list or your GPA transcript thing. They don't want you to bring anything other than yourself and maybe some notes or things that you want to talk about or questions. So you don't need to prepare in terms of like getting a file or anything like that. Also, it's important to know that there's no required list of questions the interviewers have to ask. So this means that they can ask you pretty much anything and you won't know what they're going to ask you. They also say that you're welcome to dress in your regular high school student attire. So I know that some college interviews are very formal and people get a little bit dressed up for them. But for me, I literally showed up in jeans and like a button-up t-shirt, like really casual, and a cardigan. It was super chill because we met in a Starbucks. I didn't feel like the place to wear like a pantsuit or anything like that. So you can wear, I mean, maybe don't show up in like a crop top and like short shorts, but you don't have to worry about dressing up super nice or fancy or anything. And then on the website, it also says that prior to the interview, you may want to think about experiences and goals that you want to share with your interviewer. and questions to ask your interviewer. So now that I gave a little bit of background about the interview in general, I'm going to talk about my specific experience. So for my interview, she contacted me maybe a week or two after I submitted my application, and after she contacted me, we set up our interview date literally 2 days after we first talked. So I had pretty much 2 days to prepare, and honestly that was better for me because it gave me less time to be worried about it or to stress about it. It was just kind of like get started and go, so I liked that part about it. Me and my interviewer met in a Starbucks at like kind of a close location for both of us. The interview pretty much went about half of it being me talking about myself, like her asking me questions, and then the other half I was asking her questions. So as a whole, the interview was maybe an hour long, so it was about 30 minutes each. So for my interview, I literally had no idea what to expect in terms of what she would ask me. However, I knew that it was supposed to be like they said, an informal conversation, so I wasn't too worried. To be completely honest, I didn't prepare much for the portion of her asking me questions. I literally just kind of came in there and just answered the questions that she asked me. I didn't worry too much about formulating specific answers because I knew that I didn't know what she was going to ask me. So I just kind of wanted to let things flow naturally, and that did work very well. In preparing for the interview, the thing that I focused on most was finding good questions to ask her. So I did look at a few YouTube videos on like questions that you can ask college interviewers. Some of them I liked and some of them I didn't, so I kind of took different questions that I liked and I combined them, or I tailored them to Stanford specifically. And then I thought of questions that I just had on my own. So I did come with a sheet of questions. That was the only thing that I came with, and then I had a pen so I could write down her answers to the questions. So ultimately, I did not ask all the questions that I had written down, and I actually asked some ones that just came up because of the conversation. So it's good to have a list just in case, something that you can fall back on, but ultimately you don't have to rely on it super strongly. You can just kind of see where the conversation goes and then ask questions based on that. So it's good to be prepared so that you don't feel stressed if there's kind of a lull in the conversation, but you might be surprised and things might go a lot more smoothly and naturally than you think they will. Okay, so for tips on the interview process. So I feel like even though I only did one college interview, I have done several other interviews for things in the past. I had to interview to get into a good amount of things, so I feel like I do have good interview skills. I'm speaking from a place where I have done it a lot. Like I did it for an award that I got, and I did it for a volunteer position that I was trying out for. So these are some tips that I thought of, some things that helped me when I was interviewing. So number one, I think it's really important to practice beforehand. Even though you won't know what questions they're going to ask you, I think it's good to just sit down with a parent or with a teacher and literally ask them to ask you random questions. So you won't know what they're going to ask, but they'll know, just like it is in the interview. So just practice answering questions spontaneously, just in case one of the questions does show up, you'll kind of know what to say. And even if it doesn't, you'll get used to answering questions that you weren't prepared for. So I think that practice always helps. For me personally, I think just like the mental aspect of it, it makes me feel better if I know that I've been in that situation. So I feel like at least I tried to prepare. It makes me feel more at ease. So for me, that helped calm down my nerves a lot. Just like having my parents fake interview me helped me a lot. And then also something that I would really try and do is when you're practicing, really pay attention to the speed that you're talking at. So I know that a lot of people say, people just say random things when they're nervous. You know, you don't really notice how many times you say or like. So try to avoid saying those things over and over again. But if in the actual interview you notice yourself doing that, or you notice yourself talking really, really fast, it's important to, I think, just be completely transparent. They know that this is a college interview for you and you're not going to be completely at ease. So when I noticed that I was talking a little bit fast in my interview, I told my interviewer, sorry, I'm a little nervous. Let me just slow down for a second. And I think that it helped put me at ease to acknowledge that I was talking fast, and then it also helped me calm down and just slow down a little bit. they know that you're a high school kid interviewing and it's scary, it's one of your top schools or something, you know, so they're not judging you too hard. Like, don't worry if you keep saying, just take a breather, take a second, be honest with your interviewer, and then move on. And my next tip would be just for interviewers in general to make eye contact with them. You don't have to stare at them like this the whole time. You don't have to do that, but try and, like, even if you want to look around the room a little bit, just try to keep coming back to them, make eye contact when you talk. For me personally, as you guys have probably noticed, I'm a really expressive speaker. I use my hands a lot. So try not to look like a robot, you know what I mean? I get that when you're nervous, you can just do weird things that you don't even realize, but try and be conscious of the way that you are presenting yourself. If you're looking down a lot or mumbling, it's harder and it doesn't come off as confident. So try to be aware of the way that you're speaking, and if you realize that you're doing one of those things, just take a second again, take a breather, and then try and make eye contact, try and seem engaged in the conversation, and especially during the part of the interview where they're asking you questions, make sure that you are showing that you're attentively listening, that you're interested in what they're saying. If you're looking at the floor or looking around, it may not be as obvious that you are listening to them, even if you are. Those are pretty much my biggest tips for the Stanford interview process. This was my first college interview, but I have interviewed for various other things before. So these are just the tips that I have based off of my own experience. Everyone's experience will be different, but ultimately don't be nervous. Unless you say like something super offensive or just super rude or something, I feel like it really won't affect your application much at all. Don't worry if you feel like you didn't kill it or if you feel like it didn't go as well as you wanted it to. Usually we're our own worst critics, so don't worry too much, don't stress too much, try and prepare, do things that'll make you feel more at ease, and just realize that you got this. That's pretty much it for today. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!